Hello, everyone, and welcome, and thank you for joining us this Saturday night on this live stream. The topic being medical legal challenges and insurance myths. And I'm sure many of you have questions for our esteemed guests. First and foremost, we have Jafaya Gopi, who is the founder and CEO of Dr. Shield. Hi, Jafaya,
Hello.
dialing in all the way from Singapore. And also with us, we are very privileged to have Mr. Sridhar Sundaram, who is an advocate and solicitor. He's talked to us before. He's with Asman Davidson and Company. Hi, Sridhar.
Good evening, all.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. So now today we actually had some pre-event questions. We asked members of our doctors community to ask some questions beforehand. So I think we've got quite a number of questions to tackle. And without further ado, um, I'm going to move on right to it. There is, if you're watching in our um, hang on, let me. If you are watching in our uh, DOPS webpage, the medical legal section, the Slido for questions and answers is embedded. Otherwise, you can also feel free if you're watching in YouTube to ask your questions there. But we will start off with the questions the pre-event questions. All right. So I think here we go, and I will bring up the questions at the bottom. And first question is: if I'm a doctor who is not directly involved in a medical legal suit, but I was on call and I was named in a medical suit, how will my insurance step in to protect me and my practice? So perhaps, Jafar, you can kick off.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Ellen. So, if you're a doctor who's been on the call and has been named the medical suit, this is something which we see very frequently nowadays. Yes, of course, if you have been insured on your individual basis, yes, your insurance will step in. If you have been named in a suit while you are a locum, I assume that this particular doctor has been a locum in a particular entity. So, yes, your individual insurance will step in.
Teresa, any comments?
Yeah, this is an unfortunate thing. It's almost like a Good Samaritan issue. Lots of times, Good Samaritans who step in get trawled into lawsuits. Unfortunate, but there it is. Um, the way out, if you like, is again to have proper documentation of everything that is done. And very often, when the counsel for the plaintiff realizes that the Good Samaritan either was not at fault or had very good documentation as to what happened, then that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I would like to touch upon this question actually a bit more. A lot of locums we have quite a lot of locums being sued and being named. What's unfortunate is all the private doctors have been mandated to insure themselves. On the other hand, all government doctors, okay, sort of enjoy some protection from the government side. But then there is a group of doctors, they are the locums, who are from the government and who come to help out in private entities as a locum. Not all private clinics ensure or ask or has the ability to check and force that these government doctors doing locum in their clinics do come with their own insurance. And therefore, whenever there's a suit involving these locum doctors, it's an unfortunate case that many locum doctors end up, having to face it with their own individual funds. So, yeah, doctors doing locum, I think it's a exposure. Yeah.
Okay. We go on to the next question. What are the common pitfalls that cause doctors to end up on the wrong end of a lawsuit in court? So this one is for you, Sridhar.
Yeah, this is a long answer. I'll try and keep it as brief as I can. One major pitfall that can be easily avoided, but quite frequently doctors fall into this, is documentation, history taking, informed consent in the way that the doctors give advice, info, and warning, uh, being aware of the legal duties that the doctors are under in court. That's a topic that is too long to cover here. For instance, history taking, you may need to get confirmation from previous physicians if it is necessary, but you must make sure that your history taking is properly noted, making sure that patients understand the diagnosis that you're giving them, making sure that you've noted down this diagnosis. Very often doctors get sued because they haven't noted down how the diagnosis has arrived or haven't explained that to the patient. Making sure that the patient is aware of all the possible types of treatments available, the risks and benefits associated with each of these treatments, including not having any treatment. And this happens quite frequently. If a patient insists on a particular management that you deem risky, for example, a patient with a mother with a macroscomic baby insisting on natural childbirth, then you may have to decline to continue being her physician. At the same time, you can't force a patient who chooses one particular form of treatment that you feel may not be optimal. You have to respect patient autonomy. Basically, poorly informed patients who didn't understand the risks associated with a particular form of treatment or management will end up suing the doctor. Failure to have or to follow proper SOPs. Sometimes hospitals don't have proper SOPs, or doctors don't follow the SOPs that have been set, or timeouts. This results in instrument malfunction, sometimes wrong limbs being amputated, wrong organs being removed, foreign objects being left behind after surgery, and so on and so forth. So failure to follow SOPs and timeouts is another reason. And the other thing that's now coming up quite often, that used to be, if you like, condoned by courts, but now no longer, delays. Delays in any kind of treatment, delays in referrals, even delays by ambulances. All of these delays can result in a lawsuit. And the other one is poor communication and reporting procedures between the nurses who are monitoring patients and the attending physicians. Very often, the condition of the patient worsens or deteriorates, but the nurses perhaps have not taken account of this, or having taken account of this, informed the doctors, but the doctors either didn't take it seriously or misunderstood. So those are the areas that can cause lawsuits. Of course, there are many other areas, but for brevity's sake, I'll stop there.
Okay, yeah, thanks for sharing. Next question will be one for the insurance. Regarding clinic indemnity, does this insurance also cover locums practicing in the clinic? And we have a similar question. If I own a clinic, are the locums and staff I hire in the clinic itself covered by the insurance I took out to cover me? I think this one is for you, Jafar.
Thank you. So yes, the clinics do cover the locums. The clinic insurance do cover the staff. Yeah, it is true that the clinic does cover the staff and the locums, but there's a very big topic that's just not being noticed in the market, which is the clinic has to be the insured, right? And many of us, or rather many doctors, do not understand that the clinics are a separate legal entity by itself. And as a matter of fact, many of them have not insured their clinics. This is a very loud and clear message that I would like to share. The doctors who own clinics do not constitute the clinic. They are not the clinics. They are two separate topics. Right? If the clinic is named, if the clinic employs, the clinic is to be insured. That is the entity by itself. Okay. So for the last 5-6 years, we have been promoting this knowledge that the clinics should be insured by themselves. Yeah, the clinic does require indemnity insurance by itself. If the clinic is insured, then obviously the locum and the staff are covered.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is something which also Sridhar can attest to, that when a clinic gets named, the individual doctor usually will be very upset, saying that, hey, I've been insured. Why can't my lawyer represent my clinic too? Sridhar, do you have such
Yes,
experience?
yes. And sometimes I think proprietors may run a clinic and they have named doctors who are covered in the policy. And then there's an emergency and no one's around. And then they get a locum in from perhaps a government hospital. Then, of course, that particular locum, even though protected while in the government hospital, is no longer protected whilst at this clinic. And then you fall into a crack there. That happens too.
Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, that's definitely an exposure the clinic owners need to really pay attention to.
Are there clinics? Does a clinic have to be a Sendirian Berhad to have the insurance cover? What if the doctor just practices in a shop lot and just uses, does not have a Sendirian Berhad, but he
Still can
just
get
takes
sued. Still can
insurance?
get sued. Yeah,
Yeah.
still
The
can get
clinic
sued.
is not an entity, or the doctor can get sued, but the clinic is not a Sendirian Berhad. Is it
Okay.
possible?
This is a tricky one. We used to always advise that as long as it's Indian Bahar, you must insure. But when you're a sole proprietor, you also should insure. The reason is very simple. We had one claim recently, some experience. It's a sole proprietorship, but they had a locum practicing in it, and then it was very clear that this particular experience, yeah, the locum saw the patient from end to end, and there was nothing, there was no role played by the actual doctor who was the sole proprietor. So we couldn't even extend his individual policy to cover sole proprietorship. So what I'm trying to say is, even if it's a sole proprietorship, it's best that you insure the clinic.
Okay. What should one do if one receives a claim or notice of a potential lawsuit? So maybe some general advice, Reza?
Okay, this is also quite a long one actually. Too often, this happens. This really too often. Uh, Doctors feel that they don't want to inform the insurer for whatever reason. That one I'll leave it to Jafar to explain. But by the time lawyers get involved, too much damage has been done. So my advice would be to inform your insurance company at the earliest possible moment. Some policies have risk mitigation cover, so you can have the advantage of legal counsel at a very early stage when you are still preparing your medical report in response to an irate or unhappy patient who wants compensation. You might be preparing to attend grievance meetings under the Private Healthcare Act. You could be responding to requests for medical documents, etc. And a lot of damage control can be done at these very early stages if a prompt and experienced legal counsel is there to help you to mitigate loss and perhaps even achieve an amicable resolution. If all this fails and a suit is filed, then I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to cooperate fully with and take a lot of time to instruct your lawyer and what happened. Be completely candid because it is all PNC. So, if you've made a mistake or you are aware that mistakes have been made by nurses or the hospital, or malfunctioning equipment, whatever it is, be completely candid with your lawyer. It's completely private and confidential because if you're economical with the truth, and then it comes out in trial, your lawyer will be caught by surprise and he will be ill equipped to protect your own interests. Give your lawyer all the literature, online links, even YouTube videos if he's less than familiar with your particular area of practice. He's not a doctor, so it's important for him to understand the procedure that are involved. And especially important is in the drafting of your defense. That will come perhaps you'll have about 28 days during which to file your defense after the claim is filed. And during the drafting of your defense, this is crucial because it is the blueprint of your entire case. You stand and fall on your defense. So you must make sure that you give him all the details, such as all the medical documents, drug charts, etc., names of assistants, nurses who may be valuable witnesses. It's important to keep in touch with them as well. Things that you may think are not important, for instance, WhatsApp messages between you and the patient. Um, and when you're preparing the defense, if there is alternative causes for the injuries suffered by the patient, possible alternative causes for the injuries suffered by the patient, for instance, maternal propulsion in a difficult childbirth, then you must educate your lawyer, and he will put it in your defense for you. And last but not least, try and recommend a suitable expert in your particular area who can attend court and be your expert. But of course, he cannot be conflicted. He cannot be a personal friend, a mentor, etc. That's all I can tell you in a few minutes.
Okay. We'll move on to the next one because there are a lot of questions to cover. Is it possible to settle a claim without admitting fault?
Absolutely. That's the other thing. You can be sympathetic. You can, in fact, you should be sympathetic to your patient if something has gone wrong. Be helpful in even giving referrals or further treatment, but do not admit fault unless you're legally advised to do so. Let the lawyer handle the matter for you. There are procedures in court, such as mediation, where parties can attend before a different judge, not the judge who's handling your case, a different judge who is not allowed to speak to the judge who will be handling your case. So before the mediation judge, parties can be completely candid. The strengths and weaknesses of each case can be assessed by that mediation judge, and that mediation judge will give both parties his best advice as a judge, as a sitting judge, and advise the parties of the strengths and weaknesses of their case and try and get them to resolve amicably. He cannot force an amicable resolution, but very often it can be successful. I think that's about it.
Okay, just a reminder, if you've come in late, you can ask questions at slido.com. Either open the website slido.com and enter 2607329. Or if you have the app installed in your mobile phone, you can enter the ID 2607329 and ask questions there. So we will take note, but we'll deal with the pre-event questions when we'll move on. The next question is, what are my reporting obligations to the insurance company? And the fear is if I notify the company and nothing comes out, or whether anything comes out, my premium gets increased. So Jafia, what do you say?
The insurance company expects to know as soon as it is practical for the insured to inform them of any circumstance that leads to a potential claim, right? At the same time, we know that a lot of doctors are worried of the two things, right? They do not know whether it is worth reporting, number one. Number two, they do not know whether this would increase their premiums. And these are the two common fears that they always go through. So this is exactly why we do encourage our doctors, whoever is insured with us, to always have a chat with us. So we actually have an online appointment set, or they can just WhatsApp us to set the appointment. We get to calls as soon as possible to understand. Okay, and there's always notification with no action requirement. So we can always do a notification saying that we just want to put in record that this particular patient was hunted. He seemed to be close to banging the table today. I'm not sure, but I'm prepared because I think I didn't do anything wrong, but I just want to make sure that I notify you. These are things that can be done, right? It's always in the favor of the insured to notify. We will do this, of course, the first level consultation with Dr. Shane and try to ensure what needs to be done. If we need to engage a lawyer, we do that. If we need to engage a lawyer as soon as possible to, even get consultation, that's something which we can arrange in Dr. Shane. At the same time, we notify the insurance company, and then we tell them this doesn't need your any further action, or it does. Yeah. And to answer the other question about whether they will get penalized for notifying, unless there is a huge claim and if they see a repeat claim, um, the insurance company do not have this habit of increasing the premiums, right? So there has to be certain pattern, and there has to be certain volume of large claim that is paid, and perhaps they would want to recover, right? Those are the events where we see loading of premium. But usually, if it is notification, and yeah, it doesn't translate to penalty, yeah, for notifications. I hope
Okay.
that was quite clear from my side. So, is there anything to add? I think this is actually in
Okay.
addition to what previously.
Yeah, I think that's really good to know, because very often, by the time the lawyers get involved, a lot of damage has been done. We could have even doctors losing their temper with patients because of the complaints. If we had been in there earlier, we could have stepped in and said, okay, we will handle this for you, and it takes the doctor out of the conflict. And of course, because we're not personally involved, we don't get emotional, and there's much better chance of settling it with the patient before it goes to court. So yeah, I think that's good to know.
Very good advice. I think. Yeah. Briefly, if a doctor gets an LOD, which is a letter of demand or complaint, as a precursor to a lawsuit, what then transpires? Mr. Sridhar? Yeah.
Right. So this actually still goes back to the earlier question. I mean, hopefully you should be able to nip it in the bud before you get a letter of demand or an official complaint, because at that point that means another lawyer has already been appointed. Quite frequently, the doctor will then be asked to give a medical report, and then be asked to give copies of all medical documents if he or she still has it. Of course, the same request will go out to the hospital. And then under the Healthcare Facilities and Services Act, there's grievance procedures, and doctors will have to attend that. Again, if the doctors have legal counsel, they will be able to handle it much better. After the grievance procedures have been exhausted, if the patient takes advantage of that, that is, a statement of claim with a writ will be filed, and then I had touched on that earlier. You would then have to prepare your defense. Once the defense is prepared, then the case goes through its sort of standard routine matters like case managements, bundles of documents, and you as the doctor will sort of take a back seat again. You will be in the limelight or under pressure at the time the defense is being filed, because the lawyer relies completely on you to prepare a good defense for you. And that's a document. Once that document is filed, then all the rest of the documents, the bundle of documents and case managements, you don't really play much of a role, except to make sure that all the documents are given to the lawyer and an expert is given. Then perhaps, I don't know, 6 or 8 months down the line, the trial will take place. Before that trial takes place, if both parties or all parties are agreeable, you'll go for mediation, which is what I mentioned earlier. And hopefully, if you missed the opportunity to settle it earlier, you'll be able to settle it at mediation. Failing that, it goes to trial. Plaintiffs, witnesses, and the plaintiff themselves will be taking the stand in court. Nowadays, a lot of the time it's done online, so you may not even have to actually physically go to court. Once the plaintiffs and the witnesses have finished giving their evidence, and the expert has also given his evidence, then it'll be your turn. It can be quite harrowing. Be prepared to spend some time with your lawyer for pre-trial work before you take the stand. Once that's done, then there'll be another period of time where lengthy written submissions and legal precedents will be set before the court. Usually an exchange, and then there'll be a date for final hearing, and then the decision will be delivered. So all this can take anything between 8 to 12 months. Once the decision is delivered, then you will have an opportunity to appeal if you so need to. I'm happy to say that there are cases where halfway through trial it's settled, or even after the entire trial is over, just before decision is delivered, cases can still be settled. So it's important to keep your lines of communication open. That, in a nutshell, is what happens when you go to court.
Okay, very good. We move on. For question for Dr. Shield, what do you mean by lawyer of your choice? Don't the other indemnity insurers also have this choice? And what about aggravated damages? Do you all cover? What about other insurers? Jafaya, maybe you can answer this.
Sure. So Dr. Shield is has certain features that we are very proud to say that we stick by it. Yeah, we stick by certain unique features which are very doctor centric. One of it is definitely lawyer of your choice. You could go for a big fight, but if you do not believe your lawyer, or if you don't believe that you had a say in choosing a lawyer, you may just feel that you were never accurately or fairly represented. Yeah. And therefore, we thought from day one that the doctor or our insured should have a say in the appointment of the lawyer. So what happens is whenever there is a particular suit or particular situation, circumstance that requires a lawyer to be engaged, we always ask our doctor if they have someone in mind, and most of the time we recommend our doctors who have been with us, yeah, and they make the final choice. Okay. If there's a doctor that we really do not know about, then obviously we try to find out and we speak to the insurance company to see if this lawyer would fit all the requirements, whether they can meet the reporting standards of the insurance company. Every insurance company has reporting standards. So those are things that we do, and then after that, if they agree on the terms, then that lawyer gets engaged. So this is the procedure. Uh, and when we mean by lawyer of your choice, that is what we are trying to say. Our insured actually have the choice. Yeah? That's something which we do not compromise. Secondly, about aggravated damages, yes, Dr. Shield does cover aggravated damages. At no cost, we have been covering aggravated damages from the time we started. So about 5 years, 6 years, yeah, always. Um, I'm not going to comment on the other insurance providers, but we know we cover aggravated damages, and I also understand that not all insurance companies provide lawyer of your choice. Neither do they provide aggravated damages. So yeah, I think that's where we stand out quite well.
Sorry, can I jump in there for a quick word?
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know if doctors understand what aggravated damages is. The traditional head of damages was special damages and general damages. Special damages means that which can be quantified. So if the patient has suffered a particular injury and he needs a remedial surgery or further treatments, you can put a figure to that. So you know that is exactly how much it's going to cost, and those are special damages. General damages are those things that you cannot immediately quantify, that you need the court to assess for you. Typically, pain and suffering. How much pain and suffering did that patient go through? The court will assess that with the help of the experts, and the court will then come out with a figure. That's general damages. Now, traditionally, it stopped there. It was a doctor or a hospital would be liable for special damages, that which is easily quantifiable, and general damages, that which is difficult to quantify, but the court will do it. Now, a new head of damages has become very popular, and that's aggravated damages. So aggravated damages, to put it very simply, is adding insult to injury. So let's say a doctor has already been negligent. That was his fault, right? And he's going to be liable for special damages and general damages for being negligent. It should end there. But let's say the doctor's attitude after that, poor bedside manners, being defensive, didn't want to give the medical documents when he was asked to give the medical documents, was rude to the patient, anything that made the injury that the patient already was suffering, or the injury that was inflicted upon the patient, making it worse, that is aggravated damages. So the courts now are looking at things like that. So if, for instance, something went wrong during the surgery and you were not entirely candid with the patient after that, that can amount to aggravated damages. So that can be very, very high. There have been cases where, for instance, a celebrated case where for the loss of an eye, I think the award was 150,000 or 250,000, I can't remember. But because of the aggravating factors associated with that case, 1 million was awarded. So you can see that the damages for aggravated damages can be the figure for aggravated damages can be much higher than the traditional special damages and general damages. So it's something that you really need to pay attention to.
How would a doctor know that the indemnity covers aggravated damages?
It's listed in the policy document. So I think like what the question would have, the person who was asking the question, I'm sure they would have understood that also. Aggravated damages is not usually in a lot of policies, but Dr. Shield does have it. So the best way to find out is if you look to the policy schedule, it would be stated there. It would be stated in the policy wordings. So if it's not stated there, then yeah, that perhaps could be exclusion.
Okay. Right, we better move on because a lot of questions are still pending. Can I share information on treatment or management of a patient with other doctors online or on social platforms? Sridhar, I think this one for you.
Yeah, this is unfortunate. Doctors in the pursuit of getting the best treatment for their patient, of course, will try to get input from other doctors, and that's perfectly acceptable. But because of social media and social platforms, sometimes doctors cross the line, and they may share patients' confidential information, even pictures, which is a big no-no. The pictures of their patients or the injury or details of their treatment, drugs, etc., diagnosis, and if you share it on social platforms that are open to other people other than doctors especially, you could get into a lot of trouble and be hauled up before the MMC or the MDC. So that's something you need to bear in mind when you are seeking consultation advice from fellow doctors.
Yeah, actually, just
what
to
if it
add
is
to this,
a closed
sorry,
group for doctors only?
Arguably,
Let's say,
that would be okay, but even then, I would be, is there a need to share perhaps a picture of the patient, and very often the discussion can stray from the purely medical to something a little bit gossipy, and that's where you run into trouble. So yeah, I'll keep it off social platforms if I could.
a case comes to mind recently in UK where some doctors were discussing cases in WhatsApp, and somehow it leaked out. And I think there was some unsavory comments and whatnot made, and they got in trouble, legal
But
trouble.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, in countries like the UK, the hospital actually has its own sort of online platform which is secure, that doctors can freely share information. But I don't think we have that in Malaysia.
We used to have access to one called Silo, SIILO, but that's a Dutch platform, which is now they're restricting it only for EU. So we are stuck without anything which is freely available for this online discussion, which is more secure like Silo. So I think some doctors are still using things like WhatsApp and so on, which is actually social media. So what are your comments?
actually, I have one more recent inquiry from a clinic. Right, I thought something which is worth sharing here. A particular clinic was shared a medical report over WhatsApp. Yeah, I'm not sure that it's common, but a clinic has released a medical test result over WhatsApp. But unfortunately, in this case, this was not even the real person. So, and there is some legal implications that is arising from there. So, just want to, share that in the event that there are test results that is being shared, WhatsApp, the verification should definitely be paramount before any such sensitive messages or sensitive information being released, especially if you don't know whether it's a real person. Yeah.
Okay. The fair warning about social media, which includes WhatsApp, Telegram, and so on. Okay, we move on to a question for Mr. Jafaya. Explain loss mitigation cover in medical indemnity insurance. This is insurance jargon, so we help us doctors understand what is loss mitigation cover.
Yeah. For the time we started Dr. Shield, we are extremely proud in ensuring that we practice loss mitigation. We have been really really loud about this message, but you are right. Many of them may not know what is this loss mitigation all about. Okay, let me put it very simple. Most of the insurance companies would only engage a lawyer to defend you when a legal case is started against you, a litigation is started. That means a writ has been taken against you. Okay, only then will the insurance company actually engage a lawyer to represent you, right? Versus a loss mitigation that Dr. Shield practice. What is loss mitigation? Loss mitigation means we have a buffer that we can use, right, to engage a lawyer without waiting for any litigation, without waiting for the case to actually amount to a writ, right? So it's really a um, like a proactive fund, if you want to understand in a simple way. We do have a proactive fund, and we say, you know what, the moment you think someone is asking for medical records, you may just want to speak to our lawyer. Just make sure that you're not saying something wrong. Yeah, you're just being accurate. Or if someone wants to just um, have a very harsh stance against whatever you're doing, and you need a lawyer to come and give you the best advice for you to know what is your right. Yeah. We straight away put in a lawyer. Those all these actions, yeah, for us to engage a lawyer, for us to bring in a lawyer for our doctors to speak to consult without a litigation being started is comes under a big umbrella of loss mitigation. Anything that can be spent on legal advice to reduce the severity. Yeah, we do not need to wait until a litigation starts, because, as you guys may have known, the longer you wait, and if you wait till a litigation starts, it's most of the time too late. Yeah, it's just too late. Yeah, it's just that means they have already weighed all their options, they've done all their research, they have already prepared the case, or else a plaintiff lawyer is not going to start litigation against you. They would have done everything thoroughly, and then they will whack you, and that's it. So it's most of the time too late, right? And then after that, like what Sridhar said just now, your defense lawyer will take about 6 to 8 months, and then the case will drag on, and that's a long journey of trauma. Right? If you want to try to settle things early, or try to have a conversation, if you get a lawyer, if you call your insurance company, if you don't have loss mitigation clause, your insurance company is going to say, sorry, we cannot pay for the lawyer at this point of time. Ask the insurance guys. If they say they cannot engage a lawyer, if they cannot pay a lawyer to talk to you at this point, that means you're not covered for loss mitigation.
Okay.
You must be explicitly covered for loss mitigation in your policy document. Just the same way like aggravated damages, you must have a loss mitigation clause for you to know that, okay, fine, so my lawyer is there on standby. Yeah, that's what loss mitigation is all about.
Okay, we have to move on because time is we've already taken 40 minutes. So let's move to the next question. Can I or hospital refuse to surrender medical documents to a patient? Sridhar?
Short answer to that is no. And if you do refuse, that's going to be aggravated damages.
Okay, well said. Okay. Can I amend medical documents?
Right. You can, but in order to, obviously, doctors, because of time constraints, may only be making their notes after the event. And especially if there's a medical emergency, all the more reason for the notes to be made later because you're attending to the emergency. Make sure that if you're going to amend anything, additions, omissions, corrections, you sign it, use the same pen, put the time at which you had put the insertion. Otherwise, it'll look like you doctored. Sorry to use that pun. It'll look like you doctored your notes.
So we can append to our original as long as it's dated, time, signed, and this is
Yes.
rather than editing or changing the original
Yes.
document.
Because there have been cases where judges have held that, in their opinion, it was an afterthought by the doctors, and the doctors later on, once maybe even after the complaint was made, then realized, oops, I should have added this in or taken that out, and then made the amendments. And when judges find out that, or they come to that conclusion, there's hell to pay. The aggravated damages are going to go through the roof then.
Okay, we move. If something did go wrong, what should a doctor do to avoid making things worse?
Right. I think I sort of covered this, but if things go wrong, stay accessible. Many times patients will complain that something went wrong, they didn't understand, they're not sure whether it's a doctor's fault or it's just one of the risks associated with that particular procedure. But if the doctor does an ostrich and sticks his head in the sand, is not accessible, is standoffish, is defensive, then the patient automatically jumps to the conclusion that, oh, the doctor's hiding something, that means he did something wrong, and then runs off to see a lawyer. So make sure that you're accessible. Don't just wash your hands off. Like I said, be sympathetic, be comforting, offer advice, treatment, or even a referral if you feel that a specialist or somebody needs to attend to what has happened. All of these things, if you do it right, even if you are at fault, the patient may not sue. But it's your attitude, your bedside manner. And of course, the last thing, like I said earlier, don't admit fault unless you are legally advised to do. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, let's move. Some advocate for unlimited medical indemnity coverage. And also, what's the difference between claims-based or occurrence-based coverage? So, Sridhar, maybe you can enlighten us.
No, I think this is for.
Oh, sorry, Jafaya, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I'll take this. Yeah. So let me first answer what's the difference between claims-based and occurrence-based. All right, claims made. Yeah. So claims made. So most of the conventional insurance companies that are applying the route, except for cooperatives, they're all on claims made basis. Yeah. Medical indemnity is on a claims made basis for most of the insurance companies today. Claims made means as long as you are a insurance premium paying client and you get a suit that is popping up when you are insured with this particular insurance company, it could be from the past, but as long as you didn't know about it, it's the first time you hear about it. Yeah, this particular insurance company that is covering you is obliged to defend you. Okay, that's claims made. Okay, now occurrence base is usually cooperatives offer occurrence based coverage. That means as long as you were covered with a particular occurrence based insurance company maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, that insurance company will cover you no matter how many years pass, right? They will always cover you for anything that arises from that year that you were practicing with them. That is basically the big difference between occurrence based and a claims made, right? I hope that was clear. Now let me answer the question on unlimited medical indemnity coverage. I mean, it's nice. Why not, right? Why not have unlimited medical indemnity coverage? I think the question to ask is, well, do you need it? Yeah, it's a cost versus benefit. See, a cooperative that is offering occurrence based usually also offer unlimited medical indemnity coverage, which means every year, year after year, every doctor who is signed up with a cooperative would be having unlimited coverage. So if you look at it year after year, it's like almost a snowball, right? So they are carrying unlimited liability as well, right? And what happens is, effectively, for occurrence-based insurers, they have no choice but to increase premiums a lot more compared to the other insurance companies that are offering claims made. Okay. Claims made insurance companies, which you find in today, most of the insurance companies, they are promising you a limit, and they know that this is the limit that they are obliged to pay, to stand by, to reserve, right? So if it's a 5 million or a 10 million, they know that, okay, that's a max I'm gonna set aside to pay claims should anything arise from this particular doctor. So they're able to better manage their funds and expectations. So that is the big difference between claims made and occurrence based. You see that claims made insurers would not be really obliged to increase premiums at a lot more faster pace compared to occurrence based, basically because of the essential difference. So obviously, um, yeah, having unlimited medical indemnity coverage is nice, but it's not essential if you are able to have a proper coverage. um, 5 million, 10 million, I mean 20 million, depends on your occupation, depends on the risk that you face, depends on what is the common claims in the market for your particular classification. That could be a better way of managing your expenses, your risk management. But if the funds is not a problem, and if you like, a very luxurious cover, then of course unlimited medical indemnity, nothing wrong. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, we have to move. This question, I think, just to remind our listeners, we also had a webinar on informed consent not too long ago. But how does it play a role in medical legal matters? Can you explain the legal requirements and best practices about informed consent? So maybe in a nutshell, Mr. Sridhar, you can
Yeah,
summarize for us.
right. Too often, doctors leave consent taking to MOs, assistants, nurses. Is a really bad thing to do, because end of the day, they're not the ones who are going to get sued. You're the one who's going to get sued because you're the physician. So please do take the time uh, to painstakingly set up all the risks and benefit. Don't rely on standard form contracts because they hardly ever work. Your consent must be personalized to that patient, and it can be a lifesaver. There are cases where the procedure is perfectly well carried out, no negligence in the procedure, but the doctor still gets sued because he had not made clear that particular risk was on the consent form. So, in effect, no negligence in the treatment or the procedure, or because he did not inform the client of a particular risk, you're negligent. So, it's terribly important. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, this one is for Dr. Shield. In specifically, this question was asked, what can you offer more compared to other PIs? Who are your underwriters, and what is your 24 hours hotline?
Okay, thank you. We don't have a 24 hours hotline because we have not felt that requirement to have a 24-hour hotline. Yes, you can reach us through WhatsApp and from working hours. Yeah, if there's a claim, I think it's fine. You can just message us. You can leave us a message to our online. We'll reach out to you as soon as possible. Right. That's one. Number two, our underwriters are Sharp. Yeah, Sharp is one of the biggest insurer who has got a solid capacity and credibility based in Malaysia. So Sharp is our underwriter. What can Dr. Shield offer more? I guess this is a competitive question compared to the other insurance companies. I'm really not in a situation to, compare, but let us tell you what we have, which we believe is unique. Yes, we have already covered the fact that we cover aggravated damages. That's definitely one of the very big plus points. Number two, I think we also covered this. We offer our insureds, our doctors, lawyer of their choice. Right? We do offer them a say, yeah, in the appointment. Number three, I think we've also covered this loss mitigation. We are extremely confident and proud of this fact that we offer loss mitigation, which is not offered by much insurance companies out there. And for clinic indemnity, we have been extremely proactive on promoting clinic indemnity. We allow all our doctors who are in private sector to add on clinic indemnity along with their coverage at a fraction of cost. So yeah, that's the fourth point.
Okay,
That's
another question directly for Dr. Shield. What is meant by worldwide cover, except for US, Canada, territorially, but Malaysia only jurisdictionally?
Okay, so our policy will cover you while you are treating patient anywhere in the world except for USA and Canada. Nevertheless, our policy is meant to defend you only in the courts of Malaysia. That is the meaning of this clause. So you can go anywhere and practice, but if there's a claim that someone wants to put against you, it is only applicable if they are filing the case in Malaysia because our cost is meant for it. Yeah. That's how it is. So only Malaysian courts.
Okay. There are some late questions coming in, and we have about 7 more minutes. So, can we add on? All right. You're comfortable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here goes. This one is a bit truncated. Let's see if I can show it. What happens if a grievance process was not carried out by the hospital and the case was viral by relatives of the patient on the social media? So it's suppose it's a trial by social media.
Well, again, you need to get a lawyer in quickly, and you should be able to inform those people who are either putting these messages up before they do it, if they're threatening to do it, or if they put it up, then get them to take it down and threaten to sue them for defamation if they don't take it down. That's all you
Okay.
can do. Yeah. We've done it before, so it usually works.
What minimum amount to cover a GP, minimal procedure GP in the current climate? Maybe some guidance.
Okay, let me check the calculator. Yeah. So the good thing is all the premiums that we have, right, for Dr. Shield, it's all transparent, right? You can just go to drshield.com and you would get your premiums on the spot. I think this is something which we started off. We are very proud to have started off. One of those things that we are proud of Dr. Shield is we are very transparent with our policy wordings. That means you don't need to be our client. You can check all the coverage wordings. You can also check out your premiums, right? So that's the thing. While we check on the premiums, there's also something which I thought I would share today in this talk about the insurance myth. I have a lot of doctors who are telling me that they have been covered for 20 years, 25 years with a particular insurer, and they are worried about switching to a new insurance company. So I guess that's also something which needs clarification because this is unlike a life insurance. Um, they are not giving you any loyalty coverage, right? You are free to move as long as don't have a claim, or if you have a claim and you have already notified, you are free to move. Yeah, because indemnity insurance is an annual contract. Yeah, so that's one myth that I wanted to take this opportunity to clear. Yeah, you may want to carry on with any other questions for Sridhar while I check for
Yep,
you the premiums.
sure. This one is for Sridhar. How long after a procedure is done can you still be sued by a patient?
Well, generally it's 6 years because you're suing in tort, or whether it's in tort or contract, it'll be 6 years after the incident. But if it's a minor, then you've got to be a little bit careful because it's 6 years after that minor reaches the age of majority. So,
Which is 18, is it?
yeah.
Okay.
So you need to hold on to your records for some time.
Yeah.
The minor.
So it's seven years otherwise for non-minor?
6 years. 6 years.
6 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if it's a government hospital, it's 3 years.
Okay. In medical aesthetics, what will happen if the insured doctor is not a LCP holder? I think that's the
What's an LCP
training
holder?
certificate for aesthetic medicine, but practices aesthetic medicine in an aesthetic clinic. And what the non-covered claims for aesthetic field?
See, I'm struggling with that. It says, what will happen if the insured doctor is not an LCP holder but practices aesthetic medicine in an aesthetic clinic? If nothing goes wrong, then nothing happens, I assume. So what exactly is the question? I mean,
Yes, I
is he
think what
worried?
he might, I'm trying to understand it. I think if he gets sued,
Mhm.
the fact that he is not a LCP holder make it a problem, for him.
That's a sort of an accreditation issue, isn't it? I mean, if you're not
Yes.
qualified to do something and you go and do that, then obviously that you can get sued for doing something you're not qualified to do.
Mm,
It's not just aesthetic medicine; it can be in any field. And what
yeah.
the non-covered claims?
I think they're asking what would happen if there's a
Will the
claim.
insurance cover them? Is it?
Yeah, yeah. So I
Okay.
guess I'm going to interpret it this way. So what happens if they are insured? Sorry, they're practicing something which they're not supposed to be practicing. Am I supposed to interpret it that way? Yeah. If that's okay, if that's the way I look at this question, then yes, they should not be right. So we always encourage doctors to ensure what they are licensed to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think
Okay.
it's
That's
doctors' own risk to do things they're not licensed to do. Yes, we better move quickly. We got a few more minutes left.
Yeah.
There's
okay.
one question from the YouTube chat. Can I make my own consent form that is not gazetted by KKM? Presume this is a KKM doctor, and he
Yeah.
wants to use a more detailed one regarding specific procedures.
I can't see anything wrong in using a more detailed one. I cannot comment on what KKM regulations require with regards to compliance. But on a general basis, I cannot see that it would be a bad thing. It would definitely be a good thing.
Okay.
Alright, I just got the answer from my team. What is the minimum amount to cover a GP? Half a million. That's a submission. This is the earlier question. Yeah, yeah. So half a million is the minimal sum assured which we propose. But of course, in the current climate, we hope that they are insured for at least a million, right?
Okay.
But in the event that they're going for the lowest 500, it only costs about 445 ringgit as of now. Yeah.
Any coverage for doctors after retirement from one of our doctors, senior doctors?
Yes. Yes. So if you are insured with us for 5 years, you get a runoff coverage, which means you are covered for the whole of your retirement. Yep. Even your estate gets covered after you, and you don't need to pay anything for that. If you retire after you come join Dr. Shi in 1 or 2 years time, then you just need to pay a runoff, prorated runoff premium, and you're covered for retirement. Yes.
Retired means not working even part
Not
time.
correct.
Yeah.
No more. You stop working. You just
What if you
enjoy.
do charity work? Does that cover? Does that count as retirement? Say I volunteer to do a medical camp in my retirement.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not
As long
paid.
oh,
Sorry,
okay.
put you in the spot.
See that maybe this is something which I can ask you. If they're retired, they're not paid. Okay, I need to go back to.
I think you
So
can still get sued,
yeah,
even if it's a pro bono,
Yeah, yeah.
you can still get sued.
So should we
yeah.
take medical indemnity if I'm officially not working, but I volunteer,
Yeah,
go
absolutely.
to.
From a legal point of view, I don't think a lawyer would hesitate to sue, even if the doctor was doing it pro bono, because it's still tort. It's still a tort. You still owe a
Okay.
duty of care, even if you don't get paid for it.
Great that Sridhar is here today. Thank you, Sridhar.
Does insurance company provide? We are almost time's up, but maybe this will be the last question. Does insurance company provide or advice or service for defamation by patients in social media? Very often, patients take to the social media when they're disgruntled, and they sometimes even post things which are potentially defamatory or even
Oh
slander.
yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So we our insurance covers for to protect doctors against medical negligence. That's the primary cover, right? And as an extension, we allow coverage if the doctors have unintentionally defamed someone else. Yeah. But we do not cover when they are defamed by the patients. We don't.
Sorry, that's so there's no coverage for defamation.
No.
But is there some assistance, some form
Of
of
course.
assistance?
We do connect them to our lawyers who can, of course, help try to look into the situation. I think Sridhar would know.
Yeah, I mean, any civil lawyer will be able to handle a case where a doctor is defamed and needs help.
Okay. Okay, I think we've reached the end of our session. I think it's been very engaging, tons of questions. So thank you guys. I think you've answered the questions very well. I think our doctors have taken the opportunity to post some of them very interesting questions, and hopefully we can have more of this in the future if there's the demand. I think it's been a very good session. So I'd like to thank Jafar and Mr. Sridhar for their time, and thank you all. Any last words from Jafar or Sridhar?
Sridhar, first you.
Good evening. Have a safe practice. And that's about it, really. Have a good weekend, what's left of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the season of renewal. So I think about at least 70% of the doctors would renew their policies in the next 50 days. So make an informed decision. Yeah, make an informed decision. I think the information is out there. Ask for policy wordings, compare the premiums. A lot of them are actually paying more premiums for lesser features. I think that's something which you should do your homework. Yeah. Feel free to reach out to us. We can give you all the information so that you can make an informed decision. Yeah. All the best, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Stay protected.
Yeah, just on to my last comments. Just a reminder to all doctors: there are two things required by law to renew your APC. One is you need CME points, at least 20 points. Recently, some doctor shared in our forum that he forgot and he didn't get enough points, so he's been told by the MMC he cannot practice for 1 year. And we have webinars, including those which have Dr. Shield has helped us with the Medicolegal. We have our grand rounds and so on, and there are a lot of online activities you can get CBD points. So there's really no excuse. You can easily pick up 20 points in a year, and you should be picking up and getting the points even by January. I think you should have accumulated enough for next year's application. And the second thing is we need medical indemnity by law. If you're a government doctor, even if you do locums, private locums, you need medical indemnity by law. I think if you're a government doctor, the issue I think was covered in one of our webinars also. It's still advisable because in case you are called up for a disciplinary hearing, so you're on your own unless you have some indemnity cover and you can get legal assistance. Otherwise, you have to pay out of your pocket. Okay, so just a reminder to our colleagues out there. And yes, so happy weekend. And I think we have to end the stream now. Thank you, everybody, for your participation.
Can I have 1 second, Dr. Allen? Can I have 1 second? Just on the MMC
Yes.
thing. I get
Yes.
doctors turning up for MMC thinking that they don't need legal representation. So if you are appearing before the MMC, please get a lawyer in. That's all.
Yeah.
And the insurance actually pays for legal representation. Even if the government doctors are insured, the lawyer's engagement is paid for. Yeah.
Okay. Very good advice. All right. So I will end the live stream, but the video is hosted online. So those of you who have just caught it at the end, you feel free to rewind and then play again. I mean, the topics, the points covered have been very comprehensive, and they are often common questions which doctors ask over and over again. So I think your answers are very helpful to us in the community. So thank you, everyone, and good night, and have a good weekend.
Thank you, guys.
Good night.